Good afternoon. My name is Seafood Dave Charles from KAJUKENBO Napoli. Today I have my first interview ever, and how fitting it is with Senior Grandmaster Hemenes, my Sifu and the president of the Worldwide KAJUKENBO Federation. I hope that you'll enjoy this interview and that you'll walk away with some questions answered. If you like this interview, please take a moment to like and subscribe to my channel. And if you have any further comments or any unanswered questions, feel free to leave them below. I'll get you the answers, or who knows, maybe we'll do a follow-up interview if necessary. First off, I'd like to go ahead and introduce my guest, Senior Grandmaster Hemenes. Is there anything you'd like to say before we get started, Senior Grandmaster?
I'm just Super Dave. I appreciate the interview, and hope things go well, and and we'll be able to have a great interview. But how's the weather up there?
Oh, it's cold. It's cold. It's getting down around 0 degrees over here in Italy, and that's something we're not really used to down here in the South. So we're all, bundled up and wearing warm clothing.
Low teens over here, and then today, the news is all excited because it's supposed to hit 50 degrees, but it's still cold outside.
Well, at least you can turn the heat on, right?
Yeah, the house is hot, nice and warm inside the house, but you go outside. It's not too bad. It's just in the mornings, it's kind of nippy. And then at evenings, it gets kind of nippy. And then there's so much snow, you can't even see the front of my house.
I bet up there in the mountains.
Yeah. But anyway,
okay. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and get into some of these questions here. So basically, Senior Grandmaster, can you tell me how you got started in the martial arts and then also into KAJUKENBO?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. I was only a little boy. And my father took me to go see Five Fingers of Death, which a lot of karate people, that's their first movie they've seen. And it's a kind of Chinese movie that it's got the subtitles and the guy flies through the air, and it kicks everybody up, And as a little kid, I'm like, oh my God, I want to do that so bad, which that's not realizing that's just movie stuff. So I really wanted to get into it. And then the Bruce Lee thing came in. And then I remember I was with my mom and we were driving down East 14th Street in San Leandro, and there was a Kung Fu studio. And right next door, connected, was a Taekwondo studio. But I was always into the Kung Fu because of Bruce Lee and the Five Fingers of Death. So then I went in there, I went home and I asked my dad and stuff, can I do karate? Of course, he said no. Then I'm not going to lie, I started crying like a baby. No, do karate, and just crying, no. And my granny was there. And she said, oh, son, you want to take karate? And I went, yeah. She goes, I'll pay for it. And at that time, it was only $25 a month. So she signed me up. Well, my mom signed me up. My granny paid for it. And I trained there for, a few years with this, it was Haku Gun Fu with Herbert Luke from Hawaii. And it was all Gun Fu, all the forms and stuff. Not too much sparring because of the Gun Fu. And then they wound up closing down and going back to Hawaii. So I was distraught as a little kid. And so then I went to Praying Mantis with Brendan Lai. And the forms are okay, but it just wasn't me. It was just, I wanted to spar, and do something like that. And the way he did the things, it was really kind of silly. And then, so I didn't really want to be there. And then I caught that his main instructor, he was in the dressing room and going to everybody's wallet. So that's why I stopped going there. But I always wanted to take KAJUKENBO with Vargas. But at the time, and it sounds silly now because it's so cheap, but at the time, Vargas was charging $35 a month. That was like a lot of money back then. Even 25 was a lot of money. Maybe this is 1970, 71. So that was a lot of money. And so I'd go up there, I'd walk up there, and he'd always have the open sign on during the day. I went, oh, he's open. Of course, the door's locked. I come to find out later, that was his little thing. He just put an open sign on the door so people would look in and see all the trophies and stuff. So anyway, long story short, eventually my dad said no, of course. And mom, like most moms, she stuck me up there and got me signed up. And this is a funny story. The first day I came, I wore my Gun Fu outfit. And not knowing any better because I'm only a kid, right? So I walk in there, it was like the lamb walking into the tiger's den. Everybody kept looking at me. They act like licking their chops. I'm thinking, wow, it was like my Kung Fu uniform, right? Anyway, into the night, I got the shit beat out of me. My eye was all black, lip was all puffed, scratches all over. This is the first night. I mean, in 1970, 1971, things were a little different. They were really hardcore. And then so then I came home. My dad's like, "Oh my God, you get in a fight!" And so then my mom told them, So then I told my mom, I said, "Mom, I think I go, I have to have a uniform." I go, 'cause I picked up that they were like licking their chops, And later on, me being there, people would come in and do that, and we would do the same thing, beat the hell out of them. But long story short, I got into karate with Vargas. I stayed with him for about 6 years. I started competing all over. And then me and him had a little outing, and then I went under Charles Gaylord, and I've been under him for almost like 48 years, almost 50 years. And how I met him was I met him once before, but I didn't talk to him because I was only a little kid. He was big and scary, of course. And so then I was at a tournament, and Ron Esteller came up, and he goes, we called him Professor back then. Even I call him Professor now still. They're all, "Professor wants to meet you." So I said, "Okay." So, I'm scared shitless because here's this big guy coming up, and it's like, "Yeah, so this is how's it going?" So Professor Gaylord, he goes, "Tell me about you. I heard a lot about you." And he goes, "Tell me the story about you and Vargas." So I told him. I don't want to get into that part, but he, and he said, Vargas, Gaylord had he used choice words, and it was like, pretty much like, "Fuck him, you be under me from now on. You come to my studio on Monday." And I said, "Okay." So I went there on Monday, and he had the studio in Fremont. It was upstairs, and we talked for a long time, and I've been with him ever since. He gave me all my degrees except for my Grandmaster belt. So that's how I started in with KAJUKENBO.
All right.
Yeah.
So like you said, I know you said you were under Great Grandmaster Gaylord for 40 something years. Can you tell us how the WWKAA got started?
Well, how that got started was, of course, the KAA was with Gaylord and Aldo Costco, Reyes, and Vargas, and all those guys got together, and they did the KAA. And then they went off and did their own little thing, Alan Reyes and DeCoscos. And so Grandmaster Gaylord had it, and then he didn't want to do it no more. And he gave it to the studio. So he gave it to Vargas, Senior Grandmaster Vargas. So Grandmaster Vargas did all the paperwork, and he still got it. In fact, all the paperwork, the license, the notary, him owning the whole thing. So for years, he actually owned it, but then he had his problems, so he kind of stepped back. And then all of us, the KAA people, myself, Jim Morez, all of them, we were part of it. And we were with, I was in there for like 30 something years. And then, to be honest with you, I got tired of the bullshit. Nothing was ever done. It was always, we'd have a meeting, and it was a politic thing, and it was silly. It became a joke after a while. And I'm not saying anything bad towards the KAA because, I do like a lot of people there. But business-wise, they just didn't know how to run it. So later on, after I pulled away, I said, "Okay, look, I'm not leaving Great Grandmaster Gaylord, but I don't want to be part of the KAA because it was just becoming a joke." So of course, Grandmaster Gaylord, he got mad because I wanted to pull away. So he called me, and he's all, and the way he talked, I can still hear his voice. He's all, "Tony, Professor." He goes, "I don't want you to quit. I want you to be part, don't leave." He goes, "You're one of my main guys." And I said, and I told him, I said, I'm gonna call him Professor because I'm used to calling him that. I go, "Professor," it has nothing to do with you. I don't want to be part of that anymore. I go, "I still respect everybody, but I'm just gonna step away from it." He's all, "No, I want you to be the president of the KAA." He goes, "You're the only one that's going to make it work." And this is the language he would use. You're the only one that has any balls that will stand up for anything. The other ones won't do anything. So I said, "Okay." I go, "I appreciate it, but I don't want to do it because there's too much politics, and no one's going to listen." And that's how I kind of stepped away a little bit. And to get back to some of the things he would do, which a lot of KA people thought I was an asshole, such as some rich asshole that didn't care, and he did the same thing to Brian Yoshi. He would tell me before class, okay, Tony, you say this in the black belt meeting after, but it didn't come from me, it's gonna come from you. Because if it comes from me, they're gonna get mad at me, like he wants some money on certain things. So, he put me on a spot. So I would bring up these things, but then it looked like it was coming from me. So of course they all thought, what a jerk, what an asshole, and so they weren't realizing he was coming from upstairs. And he did the same thing to Brian Yoshi. Yoshi told me the same thing. He said, yeah, he did the same thing to him. But anyway, long story short, so I pulled away. And then unfortunately, he passed away. And that's the only sad part I had, is we really didn't talk before he passed. And that's the only part I regret. And then about a year or so later, I was talking to Grandmaster Bruno from Portugal. And he told me, he said that when Gaylord went up there with Frank, he made Frank take off one day and he goes, I'm going to talk to you. This is exactly the words that came out of Bruno's mouth. He said, look, he goes, I'm not talking, he called me Tony. He goes, I'm not talking to Tony Hemenes right now. He goes, we have a little beef. He goes, but I love that guy. And it kind of brought my tears to my eyes when I heard that. He goes, if anything happens to me, because he knew he was sick. He said, if anything happens to me, he goes, you make sure he takes over the KAA. He's the only one that will keep it going and make it run right. So he told me that. I said, okay. So I got a hold of Ron Esteller. And me and Ron Esteller aren't the best of friends, and we'll just leave it at that. But, we kind of made up a little bit. So I got a hold of him. And he said, look, he goes, nobody wants the KAA. It's run down. It's become a joke. He says, it's just a joke. He goes, if you want it, take it. He goes, just call up one of the Gaylord girls. And I didn't call up Kelly. I called up, I think, Charlene. And she said the same thing. She goes, Tony, go ahead and put your application in, and and because we're gonna have a meeting, because what was going on then, nothing was ever going on. So I said, okay. So of course, I already knew the game. So, and I really deep down inside didn't want to run the old KAA, because I didn't want to go through the politics stuff again. And I knew exactly what would happen. And I had somebody in the meeting that was another black, I won't mention his name, but he was there. And he said, yeah, they had you for president the whole time. And then somebody said, no, let's put Kelly Gaylord in there. So they put Kelly Gaylord in there. So I get a phone call from Bruno in the morning. He goes, you see this post? They put Kelly Gaylord in there. I said, I just laughed. I said, okay. I already had the WWKA already set up. So then I launched it the next day. And from there, just went on in history now. We're one of the biggest organizations in the world right now. But, to get back to one point with the KAA, and this is the part that was kind of funny, was that when Professor Gaylord passed away, Ron Esteller came to me and said, look, he goes, Tony, we want you back in the KAA. He goes, because Melchor Chevres wants to take it over, and it should be Jim Juarez. And it should be Jim Juarez, because he is the elder black belt and stuff like that. And I said, I don't know, and he goes, please come back, because we need you back. I said, well, let me think about it. Well, about 2 weeks later, they had a meeting. And remember, I was already out. I already stopped. Well, they kicked out Grandmaster Vargas, which he hasn't been in there for like years. They kicked out me, voted me out, and they voted out Jimmy Willis. And I just this was like in shock, because they just asked me to come back in there, and then they vote out. I could see Vargas, and I wasn't even part of it anymore, but I couldn't really figure out why they got rid of Jimmy Willis. And later on, when the girls told me, but that was the politics I didn't want to be involved with. That's why I started the WWKA.
Okay. So I guess I got a question about what you just said with that. I mean, I know they said that they wanted Grandmaster Vargas out, and well, we know why that happened. And I know they actually
keep in mind, okay, they all, even the KSDI, all those guys, they jumped on Senior Grandmaster Vargas because of what happened. And I'm not going to go in this video what happened, because everybody already knows. But you got to keep in one mind, he was found innocent. There's no charges on him. You pull up his record, it's completely clean. But yet they still run with it, and all of them do. They make jokes, even myself, I hear the little gay jokes and stuff like that, and it's just in their immaturity. But remember, he was proven innocent. Now, if he did it or not, only God will know, and that boy will know. But for all I know, he's proven innocent, and that's what he had to go by.
Okay. Well, and I know that that was quite the process that they did, with Grandmaster Vargas, and they actually wrote a letter and basically stated that he will not teach KAJUKENBO and this and that and everything else. I guess, even with what you just said with standing, I guess I can understand some of the reasoning and whatnot that they did behind that. But then you also said that they voted you and Willis out. And obviously that I don't think that was is to the same standard, so to speak. And I guess that's going to go into one of my other questions that I have for you.
Well, with myself, remember, I was 10 years, almost, whatever it was, I was already out of there. So how can you vote somebody out that's already out?
Okay, so
that was there, and Pete Morales was there, and God rest his soul, because he was a really nice man. He told me, he said, Tony, he goes, we had to help, we had to vote. He goes, I'm the only one that voted, and he named who was there. He goes, and I even told him, well, what's wrong with Tony? He's never done anything for you guys. He's always, supported everybody, and then, and then pain. And they just kind of like, it was all the same people, and they just kind of looked at each other, whoa, whatever, so they did that, and then they voted Grandmaster Willis, and it was silly. So and I don't want to sound braggy, but at the time, myself and Grandmaster Willis, we were nationally rated in Karate Illustrated magazine, movies here and there. I mean, we were spreading, Gator's name all over, and we were, pretty much, in the martial art tournament circuit, we were pretty famous. And those are the ones they voted out.
Well, and I think the distinction I'm trying to get at here is it sounds like pretty much with Grandmaster Vargas, they pretty much not only voted him out of the association, but essentially excommunicated him from the Gaylord method. Would that be a fair?
All of KAJUKENBO did.
Yeah, all of
KAJUKENBO. By law, Grandmaster Vargas could sue them because it's slander, because and he can teach kids, he can teach anybody he wants. Of course, he's in his 80s, he's not going to do that. But you can't stop somebody from teaching KAJUKENBO. I mean, what's he going to go teach Taekwondo? He's been in KAJUKENBO all his life. So that would be so silly and ignorant to say you can't teach KAJUKENBO no more, or you can't teach the Gaylord method anymore. What Pignon is it going to do? Make them up? So it makes no sense when people say that.
Yeah, and I think that and really, I guess the distinction I was trying to make is you and Grandmaster Willis aren't in that same category where essentially they were saying, hey, we want you out of the KAA, but you were already, like you said, 10 years removed.
Yeah. I removed myself.
Yeah.
They didn't kick me out. I removed myself. That's why Professor Gaylord got mad at me, because I wouldn't take over KAA.
So that's kind of what caused your tiff then, essentially, with Grandmaster Gaylord, and why you guys didn't talk for that period of time prior to his death.
Well, yeah, he had that had happened, and then he promoted one of my students, and I don't want to embarrass his name, and behind my back, and that kind of started a little rift right there, because you're gonna be not supposed to do that, and he did that, and that kind of started it. But I always loved the guy. He's always, until the day I die, be my teacher, and then nobody can take that away.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into some of that other stuff anyways in another question here.
Sure.
But I was kind of curious too, one of the big things that you hear a lot nowadays is people, when they're talking with their little euphemisms and whatnot, say rank doesn't mean anything, just train. What do you feel about that?
Well, this is how I feel about that. They got a good point. Yeah, just train. Saying that doesn't mean anything. Does it mean anything? I'm just gonna be blunt. That's total. That's a bullshit saying, because you can train hard. But I remember as a little boy, and everybody's been this way. I taught martial arts all my life. That student can't wait to get his yellow belt, his orange belt, his blue belt, all the way up. I mean, that's a goal they go for. Sure, you don't have to have any belts, on it or to train, but it's like you become a doctor. You work up to that level, so now you have that title doctor. So when they say rank doesn't mean anything, well, it doesn't mean anything, but you accepted the promotion, things like that. So that's the thing I get on that is we can all train hard, but don't tell me that the rank don't mean nothing to you, because that's just bullshit. And I'm like probably going to get slack for saying that, but that's just the way it is. Now I know when we had the first black belt class up at Gaylord Studio up in the second floor, it was the first one, and it was myself, Jim Juarez, Brian Yoshi, Bill Gifford, John Casada, Brian Yoshi, and a few other ones. And of course, we all had big egos. And I'm not going to say that I didn't have one of the biggest ones. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to I'll tell it the way it is, because, the limelight thing, So everybody was punching each other hard, blasting each other. So Gaylord made us all take our belts off and put them on the rail. And he said, now, he goes, we're all the same. Because the ego thing came in. And then after that, it never calmed down. Everybody was always blasting each other until towards the end. But that's what he did. So when they say rank don't mean anything, that's not true, because everybody wants to get that next degree. Everybody wants to get that title of Sifu, Sigon, Professor, Grandmaster. And so deep down in their heart, they say that doesn't mean anything to them. Well, then stop calling yourself Grandmaster, or don't call yourself Sifu. Call yourself Bob or Jones, or whatever. That's the way I feel about it.
Okay, so now I'm gonna get into some of the questions and or the comments that people have provided.
Sure.
I know that there's been some considerable amount of conversation in social media regarding promotions coming from the WWKAA and now the WWKF. And likewise, you've responded by posting a video on KAJUKENBO Live. If you guys haven't seen that yet, please visit KAJUKENBO Live and take a look at that. To clarify the difference between recognizing someone's rank and promoting someone. Now, the conversation's been pretty one-sided. Would you like to take some time to go ahead and address that here?
Sure. That's a problem I had at first, because, people, I guess, weren't smart enough to didn't realize what recognize and promotion mean. So, I explained it a million times, and yet they still, go, oh, you promoted somebody. No, I recognize them. Just like I'll give you an example. Professor Gary's under me. Now, he trained Ernie Reyes and Tony Thompson from West Coast Taekwondo and some KAJUKENBO, and he promoted them their first degree in KAJUKENBO. He didn't start as a white belt. I mean, Ernie Reyes has been in martial arts all his life for, 60 years. So you can't start that person as a white belt. So you can recognize, let's say if which a lot of people do that. Let's say a studio will call me up, or an instructor, and say, look, I'm a 5th degree in whatever, I'm gonna say Taekwondo. Okay, I want to be under the Worldwide KAJUKENBO Association. I've been in martial arts for 35 years. And I'll do my background check. And when I realize he has been in it for 35 years, I'll recognize his rank, not promotion. He's recognized in the Worldwide KAJUKENBO Federation as a 5th degree, but not in KAJUKENBO. And that's the thing I have to emphasize, not in KAJUKENBO. Now, again, I'm human. We all make mistakes. I promoted somebody from Greece, and he gave me his whole resume, and it was great, and I did do that. And then Grandmaster Theonopoulos went to Greece, and he found out the guy was a fake. So he told me instantly. I took it away, because I have respect for Tom, and I'm gonna listen to what he said. I know he's not gonna lie to me. So I took it away. So we all make mistakes. Okay. Sometimes I promoted some people that runs like Egypt, they run Morocco. They're just not running, they're 30 students. They're running Egypt, the whole Egypt. They're running, most of Morocco, and Kuwait. I got 5 studios in Kuwait. So I'll bring them up to that standard. And then, but what I tell them though is they have to get their KAJUKENBO forms down. And a lot of them do. And when they do them, they post them on my Facebook, they post them on social media. I don't hear, I'm gonna call them the trolls. I don't hear one of those trolls say, great job, you're learning KAJUKENBO. But I hear about when I promote them. Just like with Professor Gaylord, okay? He did it a few times. The first time he ever skipped anybody, it did cause a little riff. I mean, nobody said anything to him because we had respect. When Milcar Chavez came to him, he was only a 2nd degree black belt. And Gaylord brought him from 2nd degree black belt up to 5th degree black belt. And he caused a lot of problems with like myself, a few other black belts, I don't mention their names. They were upset about it. But that was Professor Gaylord's decision. He's the guy, he can promote anybody he wants. And then he promoted Mark Gary. They did the same thing. That caused a huge rift. I mean, that wasn't there when he did it, but he caused a huge rift. Even Mark said, he goes, Mark told me that just the other day, he said, he wrecked my martial arts KAJUKENBO career by promoting me, because then everybody hated him. Okay. But in the past, I've mentioned to Professor Gaylord, well, someone's gonna get mad. His exact words to me was, again, this is Gaylord talking, fuck him. I'm the professor, I promote who I want. And he's right. He can do what he wants. You don't have to agree with him, but he can do what he wants.
Well, in fact, I think in one of my videos, I'd mentioned that CJ did the same thing, in the Plymouth Settlement School. Sure. I think it wasn't McCandless, I think it was. They came in and he was a black belt, and he was willing to start over as a white belt. And CJ told him, no, you're a black belt. You keep your rank. You'll learn it eventually by helping me teach.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. If I went to another studio, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't stand there with a white belt on. I'm already a grandmaster. I'll learn your stuff, but I'm not a grandmaster in your style, but I'm not gonna wear a white belt. It's kind of like insulting. Now, and then Imperato, Joe, he didn't talk to me after this, but it's a funny story, because and then I'll get to this point in a minute. The loyalty. I was at a tournament in Reno, and he was there. And I remember I was competing heavily. I was all over the place. And his Zach was like, Hemenes, come here. He goes, I've heard a lot about you. And at that time, I was a 3rd degree black belt. And he said, what are you? I'm a 3rd degree black belt. He goes, who you under, Charlie? Because he called him Charlie. And I said, yes. And he always called me a blue belt. Is that blue belt? And I went, yeah. I was like, oh, whatever, And I'll tell you what, he goes, you be under me today, I'll make you 7th degree. And I looked at him and I was like, at that time we called him professor. I go, professor, it's an honor, but I go, I'm gonna pass because I'm with Professor Gaylord. And he went, ah. He put his hand on my face, never talked to me again.
Huh.
Now, if I would have accepted that rank as 3rd degree to 7th degree, I'd have made a fool out of myself. All my peers that I grew up with would look down on me. But that shows the loyalty I had with Great Grandmaster Gaylord. And a lot of black belts out there will do that. They'll come and say, the CJO or DT will say, oh, if you come under me, I'll promote you to 5th degree. Okay, but with the price. And that's one thing I couldn't do. I couldn't do that because you have to stay loyal to your teacher.
Yeah, well, sure. And then there's that integrity angle to that too. And then that's, probably it was a pretty hard thing to turn down, I'd imagine.
Well, yeah, because I mean, of course, the ego thing would come in going, wow, I'll be a 7th degree black belt. Because back then the degrees are hard to get. And I'm thinking, instantly, I was just like, no. And I told Grandmaster Gaylord what he said, and the same words that came out of his mouth I said earlier, and that's just the way it was. But you have to show loyalty to your teacher. I mean, I've always pushed that. Don't leave that person to go get a higher rank from somebody else, and then go from that person to go to that person to the higher rank, because on the wall you can have a rainbow of certificates. When you have that, to me, that means nothing. I want to see white belts all the way up to highest degree you got with that teacher. I don't want to see a bunch of certificates from everybody else. I just, I mean, I've been offered, oh, you should be a 10th degree. We'll get your certificate. No, there's no more 10th degrees. Oh, a 9th degree unit might. No, I don't want to be a 9th degree system. I'm only a Gaylord and that's it.
Okay. So I guess, this is probably more of a statement then based off of what you just said than it is a question. But just to clarify, in the Worldwide KAJUKENBO Federation, when you are recognizing someone as a black belt of whatever degree, that does not make them a black belt in KAJUKENBO. Would I be correct in stating that?
Yes, exactly.
And essentially, they have to prove to you, that they met the criteria that you require of them before you actually promote them to another degree.
There was one of my guys, I don't remember his name, but running a country, and I promoted him. I did promote him. People gave me a lot of shit about it, but his lineage came from Al DeCoscos. Al DeCoscos promoted him. Mike Sanchez promoted him, so that was his lineage. And it gave me a bad time about him, and I kind of rolled the dice with him to see how he'd do, and he wound up turning out to be a great black belt. He's got seminars all over. He's really, really stepped up to the plate. So all the trolls and all the skeptics that made fun of him, they're sitting back doing nothing, but he is. And like I said, you can do 100 things good, no one says anything. You do one thing wrong, everybody jumps on the bandwagon. But he's proved them all wrong.
Yeah, so I guess, and what you just said kind of leads me into, one of my other questions here is I know that you and I have discussed this, and you vet people before you recognize their rank. Can you provide a little bit of detail how you do that? And you kind of just did a little, but and what you look for before you accept somebody in the WKAF?
Well, I'll give you an example. Like, we got thousands of people under us, and every day I get emails and messages from people from all over the world want to be under us. I found that, well, I don't get yelled at for this one though, but I found that India, I get tons and tons of people from India, and they're all 9th and 10th degrees, and the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, oh, I want a certificate. And what next thing comes out of my mouth is nothing. I go, delete, I delete them. I don't even answer back, I just delete them. Or if I do answer back, I go, I'm not here to give you a certificate. So what I do is the ones that want to be part of us, I look back at their lineage, like this guy he's from Egypt, and I went back and I looked back, and Al DeCoscos promoted him, and I don't think anybody can make fun of Al DeCoscos. He's been around more than anybody. He's one of the top, he's one of the best in the world. So I go by that. And if they give me people like, well, who's your teacher? I don't know, I forgot. Well, I don't want to deal with you. So that's what I do. I go back and see their lineage, what they did.
Okay. Which I guess, these questions kind of are running together here a little bit. And, I know that several of the people that you've been criticized for recognizing have been promoted by other KAJUKENBO organizations prior to coming to the WWKF, and you just mentioned one of them. And I'm sure that contributes significantly to your decision in accepting them into the WWKF. But I also noted that some of them are not on the family tree. Do you think that should be an indicator as to the validity of their previous KAJUKENBO certificate? And
go on, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Well, I guess that they provided to you in the vetting process, because with today's technologies, and software that's available and whatnot, I'm sure that there's people that have faked plenty of certificates.
A lot of people do that. That's the problem that's going on right now. Is a lot of fake certificates are being made out there. On the family tree part, if you look on my family tree, those people that are my black belts, they're my black belts. Now, if I want to put down all these other countries that got, 30, 40, 50, 60 black belts on there, and just because I want to pad my name, I could do that because they're part of me. But I usually don't do that because they're not my black belts. Most of 99% of all them black belts, actually 100%, I think 99%, they were my black belts, or my black belts trained them. You won't go on there and see somebody, with this Taekwondo that I just recognize, because I want to have, like Ernie Reyes is on there, but Mark Gary trained him, so he's under Mark Gary. Now Ernie Reyes has got thousands and thousands and thousands of students and black belts. I can put those on there and it'd cover the whole tree. But they're not my black belts. They're Ernie Reyes black belts. So that's a good example.
Yeah, in fact, that was actually going to be my next question. I was going to, make a note of that, a lot of these guys, I mean, it's not like they're on the family tree underneath your name, and, and you didn't, promote them to, student black belt, first degree, second degree, third degree, fourth degree, fifth degree. They came to you as, a fourth degree or a fifth degree or a sixth degree from somebody else.
Yeah.
So with that said,
like even yourself, I mean, you trained KAJUKENBO with Grandmaster Lopez and Tim Garnier. You have a KAJUKENBO background.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's easy to follow. You just keep going.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, sometimes I kind of wonder where the rub comes from here. But with that in mind, there are a lot of other KAJUKENBO organizations out there that are doing the same thing that people are accusing you of. Now, I don't really want to call them out or anything, but what do you think the difference is, and why do you think that other grandmasters are not being called out the way you are?
Well, a lot of time, and this is the point where Gator used to get with me. I'm not being arrogant when I say this, is because I usually don't take shit from anybody, and I tell them the way it is, they like it or not. And this is the thing, is when I do this, you get the trolls out there that'll get mad. Then I get, a dozen other people call me up, go, thank God you finally said something. Man, I want to shake your hand. He goes, these guys, and I don't want to mention their names, I'm so upset with them. They did this, they did that. He goes, you're the only one that stood up and said anything. And plus I don't kiss anybody's ass. I mean, and I don't go out after anybody's students. If they want to come under us, the door's open. I've never once solicited other people's students. Just like no, I don't care about the other. Like Mike Sampras did this. When out the class was left, he solicited all my guys, trying to get them to go under him and Koa. And I called on him, Gary Forback, same thing. He called some of my black belts, why are you going under Hemenes? You should be going to the KSDI. And I told him, you guys don't need to do that. It just shows the integrity. That's all.
Okay. In fact, that kind of goes into my next question, and I was going to ask you, do you think that other grandmasters should be calling on people that are not part of their organization and encouraging them to check out other organizations, as well as discouraging their membership in their organization?
Well, it goes back to what I just said, that,
they
don't need, if they have a good organization and a good platform, the people will come. The students will come, the grandmasters and professors would want to be under you and your under organization. And the one thing that I push down really hard is I don't charge anybody for anything. If they want to do a donation for a promotion, which a lot of them do, that's great. It just goes to the WW and it goes back out to all the guys out there. But I don't charge anything. I don't come to you and go, okay, I'm gonna do a seminar today. I'm gonna promote 10 of your students, and I want $200 a pop. Well, I just made $2,000 going there and promote somebody. And a lot of people, I promote one of the guys, Terry Furclough, to Grandmaster, and he said, how much? I said, there's no fee. Oh, I can't do that. He said, I have to pay something. I said, no, there's no fee. He goes, well, I'm going to donate something. And he did. He did a great donation to the WW, and I really appreciate that. But I don't push it. And the same thing with a lot of people, even my studio, when I had my studio in San Leandro, I had like 400 students. They're not all 400 paid, because a lot of them didn't have money. Or the parents were a single mom, and all of a sudden they're like, I can't afford it. Never once I had them quit. I said, just come. It's on me. I always done that. I never turn anybody away. And the same thing way I run the WWKA.
Well, better be careful. You're going to learn your bad boy of KAJUKENBO reputation here.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you don't know the rumors.
Okay, well, here comes another good one. Okay, so what would you say to those who question the validity of your grandmastership? Okay, it's been said that you were okay. Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, some say that you were promoted to 8th degree by your students and then to grandmaster by an illegitimate grandmaster, meaning Grandmaster Vargas.
Yeah.
Despite the several, well-known grandmasters who signed your certificate. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to respond to that, because that's come up several times in Facebook over the last couple of years.
Well, this is the funny part, is that I was telling Grandmaster Baca, he's been with me for like 40-something years, about that. About how the students promoted me. He laughed his ass off last night. He says, "Oh my God," he goes, "Who the hell saying that?" And the thing was, this is what Gaylord would do. And he did. I'll give you an example. On my 5th degree, I was a 4th, and he called me up, "Tony, Professor," he goes, "I'm going to promote you to 5th degree." He goes, "You have it at your studio." And I come down and I'll do it. I went, "Okay, thank you, Professor." Well, he comes down, teaches the class, and I have everybody there, and I always learned, you don't ask about your promotions. That's just a disrespectful thing to do. So in the class, he doesn't promote me. I'm thinking, what the hell? I'm thinking, whatever. So then I just thought, well, it's just whatever. I had no answer for it. So then, a couple weeks went by again. He calls me up. Yeah, I goes, "Make sure when I come down, remind me, I'm going to promote you." I said, "Okay, Professor." And I did call him on the first one, right? So he comes down a second time, didn't do it again. I thought, what the fuck? I said, what the hell is he doing? So then he leaves. The third time he calls me, he tells me the same thing. And so, but finally, I just said, "Professor," I go, "this is going to be the third time that you've told me you're going to do this. I have everybody here. You don't do it." Well, I got there's a lot of jealous assholes in there, and the association. He goes, "If I promote you to 5th and not promote," I don't mention their name, but so and so and so on. He goes, "They're going to be all pissed off at me." He goes, "So what I'll do, I'll just promote you at the next black belt class." So I said, "Okay." So the next black belt class, he promoted me, Brian Yoshi, and Jim Williams to 5th degree. But that's what he would do. And then on my 8th, the same thing. He goes, "You got 8th degree now." He goes, "I want you up there," and da. I said, "Okay, Professor." And then, he goes, "So from now on, your 8th degree, we'll make a little ceremony about it." I said, "Okay, great." And then we had that falling out. So we never had the, he never stood over me, but he told me that on the phone that you're 8th degree. He did the same thing to Pete Morales. Pete told me, they told me the same thing in 8th degree. He must have called us the same night. He goes, he's had a habit of promoting people, but he doesn't want to say anything to anybody because he doesn't want to piss anybody off. So I left it at that. And then later on, I started talking to Grandmaster Vargas again after 30 years. I started talking to him again. And he said, "I've seen your accomplishments and everything." He goes, "I want to bring up you and Sid Lopez to Grandmaster." I said, "Okay." He goes, "But I want to do it right." Because he knew all the people out there would jump on his back because of what happened. And I said, I'll be honest with you. I said, Sifu, I still call him Sifu. I go, "Sifu," I go, I don't need anybody's signature. Yours is good enough because you were my first teacher. I don't care what anybody thinks. I've always been that way. No. We're gonna do it right. So he did. We went to Hawaii and Aldo Costos, we did the promotion with Grandmaster Vargas. Grandmaster Robert New signed it. And then I had Alan Reyes Jr. sign it. Al Novak signed it. Pete Morales signed it. I had 6 senior grandmasters sign that certificate. Well known. Now in Hawaii, I could have had 3 or 4 signatures on there from the grandmasters over there, but I didn't really want them on there because I didn't even know who they were. And, and they were, and after seeing them, I didn't want them on there. Trust me, I wanted top people, so nobody can come back and say, that's fake, or you had a bunch of nobody sign your certificate. For number one, Alan Costos is one of the top guys in the world. Alan Reyes Jr., same thing. You got Al Novak. I mean, those are the kind of names that signed my certificate. So there's nobody that can say that I'm not a grandmaster. And the only ones that are saying that is usually the KEA people, the old KEA.
Yeah, and and I think one of the things that sticks in my mind is one of the things that comes up all the time is an illegitimate grandmaster, meaning Grandmaster Vargas.
They're saying
this happened before any
they're
of that other
saying
stuff,
because
right?
Vargas got kicked out of KAJUKENBO that he doesn't have any right to sign that certificate. This is why Vargas is a very smart man when it comes to stuff like this. That's why he wanted all those top signatures on my certificate. So for that exact reason, they couldn't come back and say, well, Vargas got kicked out. Well, who kicked you out? KA? Big deal.
Yeah, but that promotion actually happened before all the trouble that Vargas had, correct?
The promote, no, he did that like 30 years ago when it happened. It's been like 30, maybe longer than that when it happened. And he lost his studio over it, but he was, again, like I said, proven innocent. But it is what it is.
Okay, and then with that said, I've spoken to a couple of the grandmasters, in the KAA, and at least one of them, told me that you're legit, but again, some act as though you were kicked out of the Gaylord method, which we kind of talked about a little bit ago. And I think one of the words that somebody used recently is you were shunned. Can you explain maybe a little bit more of that and, clarify again for the
First of all, you could never shun somebody out of your teacher. I was with Vargas for 6 years, but I was with Gaylord for about 48 years. He's my teacher. So you can never say, you can't, you're not his black belt no more. That's total bullshit. Okay, because I'll always be his black belt to the day I die. Being kicked out, they can kick me out of their association, which I had left on my own terms. But they can kick you out of your association. That's great, but they can't kick you and remove you from somebody's, as your teacher. So, and then the ones that are saying that, I know exactly who was saying that. Those got young guys. They weren't even born when we had first black belt class. They're sitting there trying to condemn me and talk shit about me. And again, I know where it's coming from because it's coming from their teacher, And so when you have a teacher that teaches you the wrong way, it just reflects on the students. And those guys that are doing that, it's actually a joke because you cannot kick somebody out of that person being their teacher. It's impossible. It's impossible. Could even say, you're not, you never train with Sid. I don't want you to say Sid Lopez was your teacher because he's gonna shun you from that. You can't do that. He was your teacher. You can't make it up. They can't come to me and say, well, you can't teach Gaylord's forms. Well, that's bullshit. You can't do that either. So whoever says that, they don't know what they're talking about. And if they want to get in a little group and in the OKA and say stuff like that, let them. And like you said, there's a lot of people in the KA, they're on my side, and they told me, but we don't want to say anything because out of respect for Gaylord, we don't want to upset Kelly Gaylord. He's over to me. We would be with you. And there's several people down there that's done that, and I've told them, just stay where you're at. Don't upset the boat. They say, well, because Gaylord's, Kelly Gaylord's, Gaylord's daughter. I feel bad leaving them. He goes, I agree with you 100% what you're doing. So that's the gist on that.
Okay. Well, and it's funny because since you mentioned the forms and whatnot, And then I know you're aware that the other day I had posted a video of me doing one of the pinions. I think it was pinion too. And the funny thing is there was a couple people that had put laugh emojis on somebody's comment because they said that looks a lot like Gaylord method, you know. And I was like, well, yeah, that's because it is, but it's not, you know, due to all the politics and everything else that went down the last couple of years and everything and whatnot. So, you know, I'd marked it up as, you know, being Jimenez method, and did pinion too, you know. But I also thought it was kind of funny that you have a president of an organization who's putting laugh emojis on my post of me doing KAJUKENBO pinion too.
Yeah.
And I had actually made a comment back to her saying, hey, do you think something's funny about my video? You know, and unfortunately, she didn't respond. So,
Well,
you know, it's kind of from the top, the disrespect is coming out.
of
No
course.
wonder the lower black belts are showing disrespect to other people.
And you know, the reason I switched it to Jimenez method is, of course, people for years and years and years and years, you know, even my students said switch it to Jimenez method because we had so many schools and so many students. But I didn't do that because of respect for Gaylord. I just didn't want to do that. It just felt kind of funny. So when Kelly Gaylord sent me that first letter saying that I couldn't use Gaylord's picture, I couldn't use his name, you know, da 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 da, you know, it was a whole total bullshit thing, you know. So I go, well, first of all, I was just gonna just ignore it. And I thought, well, you know, I'll be the nice guy. I go and I'll take his picture down, you know, on my thing, which I put it back anyway, but I'll change it to Jimenez method instead of the Gaylord method, so that way, you know, there'd be no animosity and stuff like that. But you know who it hurt? It didn't hurt me one bit. It would hurt Professor Gaylord or Grandmaster Gaylord because all my studios all over the world had his picture up. Now they had to take him down because of some political thing and some jealousy type thing. So again, it didn't hurt me. It hurt the Gaylord method by doing that. You know, and then she sent me later on, she sent me a thing, you know, oh, can you change the patch? No, I can't do that. It's I put down, no, I'm not changing the patch. You know, I took out Gaylord's name, I put him in his method, I go, I'm not changing the patch. And they had changed it completely different because they got around Vargas owned the KA, so they revamped it into the new one. So, you know, they'd be part of it. But I always gave them the benefit of the doubt. I called, you know, I emailed Kelly Gaylord and I said, call me. We'll be stronger together than apart. I go, and you know, but she wouldn't do it. You know, so I gave her the opportunity several times, you know, to do that. The only thing I did regret, I'll be honest with you, and the people gave me a bad time about it, is I called her a fat ass on my video because I was pretty pissed. I shouldn't have called her a fat ass because, you know, I know that wasn't right. You know, and I say when I'm wrong, and you know, I was wrong, and you know, and I apologize, you know, to her for calling her that, but it was just at the heat of the moment that I called her that. You know, and you know, myself, I've been called all kinds of names that don't bother me, but I guess it bothered a lot of people because I did that. But you know, like I said, I have nothing against the whole KA. I have nothing against Kelly Gaylord. I know that the 48 years that I was under Gaylord, I never seen her once worked out, and she holds a 6th-degree black belt. I know when she was a little kid, she was a blue belt. But I never once seen her, and even the KA guys go, she's never worked out. She's never did nothing, but she's holding a 6th-degree black belt. I don't see them complain about that. Or when they promoted 2 other guys to 10th degree, after CJO said no more 10th degrees, that was okay for them to do that. But I promote or recognize one person. Oh my God, look what he's doing. You see what I'm saying? It's just, it was good for one, should be good for the other.
Yeah, you know, and I think that there's, you know, maybe a little bit of double standards here or there, you know. You know, it's politics at its best, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can beat that to death. But I guess my next question is I did a video on the family tree, and I stated that I considered it to essentially be an authoritative source as to who's who and who's legit in Kajukembo.
Mm.
If you're on the family tree, then you're verifiable as being Kajukembo. Okay. I've received several comments as to, well, no, it's not required for me to be on there, or we know who each other are. My instructor doesn't put us on the tree. Now, for me, for the life of me, I can't understand why somebody would not want the rest of the world to see who's who and who's under who, you know, and have a single source for reference that would basically remove any bit of doubt as to the authenticity of a black belt and their place on the tree. Do you have any thoughts on the family tree and
Well,
why?
I think, yeah, I think they, you know, when you get your black belts, they should be in the family tree, because that family tree is going to be there forever. Everybody's going to have it hanging on their wall. Now, I don't know how long Galenas is going to keep doing it, but, you know, you want your name on that. Now, sometimes the instructor might just be lazy and not do it, you know, or just don't care about it, but you should care about it. You know, when I was upset with Gator, when I first started doing the family tree, I just said, just leave me off, because I was really upset. No. And he goes, do me one favor. He goes, I want you on this family tree under. I said, okay. So I did, you know, but, you know, I think everybody should be on there. That's KAJUKENBO. So everybody knows who's who and who they came from.
Yeah.
Now, I know one of the black belts wanted to leave one black belt and put his name under another black belt. And I know Galena said no, because Galena asked him, well, who'd you teach you? Who promoted you? Well, so-and-so promoted me. Well, that's who you had to be under. I'm not moving you. Because they say, you know, you get mad at me for some reason, you know, and then you say, well, I don't want my name under Hemenes. I want my name under whatever, Sid Lopez. You know, even if Sid Lopez was in the same thing. He won't do that, because I was the one that promoted you to black belt. You know,
Yeah.
So that's a good thing in his part, that he's doing that.
Well,
You know,
yeah.
but I think everybody should be on the family tree.
Well, you know, and I remember too, you know, I was watching the CGO, one of the CGO interviews, you know, where they had started doing a family tree just for CGO's own organization that he had, you know, started up during that time period. And that thing has grown immensely since then. And Grandmaster Galenas does a wonderful job of keeping that thing up to date. But, you know, the thing about that is with, especially with the technology things that I'd alluded to earlier, where people are trying to fake certificates nowadays. You know, Grandmaster will not take just a certificate from somebody saying, look, you know, I got promoted by Grandmaster Hemenes right there. Boom, here, put me on the tree. No, he wants an email or a phone call from you, right? Sure. To say that, yes, indeed, you know, you promoted this individual and I want him on the tree, and then he'll put you on the tree. So to me, that's
I did that with, I got a little slack from the old KA, but I did it with Armando from Texas. His a black belt under him. He was under, you know, for years. He came to me and you know, he was ready for his grandmastership, but he wanted it from me. And I like Armando, but I said, okay. I go, you talk to Armando about, oh yeah, he's cool with it. So I went ahead and did it, you know, and I got slack from the KA. You know, and then I got a hold of Armando, and Armando said, no, I don't care. He goes, that's up to you guys. He goes, we'll still be friends, you know, And I kind of like that, you know. But even in the past, when I had my studio, let's say one of Palin's black belts came to me, or not black belt, student, that'd be black belt, and want to sign up with me. And they go, I just left Palin's. I go, okay. First thing I do, I call up Jordan. Jordan, this guy came over here, you know, and Jordan will say, oh, okay, just go ahead and take him. He did the same thing. He's called me up, Professor, Grandmaster, I got this your student over here. He goes, I want to, you know, if it's okay, I take him. I go, oh yeah, take him. But we had that respect between each other that we would do that. Now, a lot of studios won't do that. They'd be like, no, that guy sucks, come over here. See, we didn't do it that way. We did the opposite. I would call somebody up. Even Jim Morez's studio, at that time, I'll be honest with you, I was charging, I'm gonna date myself, but I was charging $65 a month. I was high back then. Jim Morez only charged $25 a month. I'd have students come in and sign their kid up, and they go, wow, we can't afford $65 a month. We know Jim Morris down the street in Dolores, they teach the same exact thing, and they're only $25 a month. Really? Yeah. And I would send them over there. And a lot of times they come right back and you go, well, I'm going to sign up with you. Okay. But I would do that. I would give that courtesy out. Now, a lot of those people don't know this, but that's exactly what I would do. And I sent a lot of people to the other studios that, KAJUKENBO studios. I wouldn't send them anywhere else.
Yeah. Well, and I my story a little bit, and whatnot, but I was pretty lucky throughout my time period, where essentially every time I'd find a new school, it was pretty easy to, hey, I'd like to train for a while.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. And essentially nobody would really bat an eye about it, and they were very accepting and everything else, so I mean, as far as Ohana goes and being one big family, KAJUKENBO is, in my opinion, for the most part, is pretty well that way.
Should be.
And they were accepting of me, and I mean, they accepted me, being Sid Lopez's student, they accepted my rank, and then we just moved on. And the funny thing is I've also trained in original method a little bit, not a lot, but for a few months anyway, when I was in San Diego, I trained in a school in La Mesa. And it's funny because you're like, oh, I don't remember who the instructor was, I was only there for a couple months, and it was right before I transferred, and for the longest time I was trying to remember who that was. So I'm like, okay, San Diego, who do I know that's down in San Diego that's KAJUKENBO? So I called up or I messaged a guy on Facebook that I knew was big down in San Diego, and he's like, oh yeah, that was Vince Black's school.
Oh yeah.
Black. I don't think it was that, I wasn't actually training with Vince. I think I was training with one of his black belts that was kind of running his school at that time. But it was kind of cool, and I just mentioned that here, not to, try to make anything, out of it, but other than to say that everywhere I went, KAJUKENBO people were very accepting of me when I walk in and say, yeah, I took KAJUKENBO for, 5.5 years with Sid Lopez and and everybody was like, yeah, cool, come on in. It wasn't, yeah, but you got to start over, or something to that effect, so it was very easy.
Any KAJUKENBO studio, if you're a KAJUKENBO student from somebody else, they should never make you start all over. Especially KAJUKENBO, especially if I know them. If I always use Pounds, for example. If one of your students came over to us and he was a blue belt, that's where he's going to start in. I had one of Jim Morris's blue belts come to me, and that's where he started. Once I started a white belt, no, he just from what you're a blue belt with him, same thing. No, you came in and you start the same thing, and then I've had black belts in my studio that weren't my black belts. I didn't promote them, but they would come on Wednesday nights and spar because we sparred a lot, for the tournaments and stuff, and they would train with us. But they were my students. I never told them, oh, you can't come in here because you take karate from whoever, my door was always open. Everyone would come in and work out, and I had people, believe it or not, from like different states. In the summertime, they would come and stay for like 3 months in the Bay Area, so their kids could take karate from it for 3 months because of the tournament scenes, and they wanted to compete and stuff. So we were, like I said, the door was always open.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that pretty much it's coming to the end of my questions here. But lastly, I guess I'd ask you, what advice would you give out to the rest of the KAJUKENBO Ohana with regards to making KAJUKENBO stronger and strengthening the legacy of Sijo and great Grandmaster Gaylord?
Well, this is what I would say to everybody. And I've told this to Kenji, I told this to a lot of people. There's enough people out there for every association to have a lot of people. Nobody needs to cut any other association down. They don't need to do that. They don't need to stab anybody in the back or to try to get their people to go under their people. That's ridiculous. It should be the one huge family, and just stay together. You know, I mean, everybody has their own opinion on things and stuff like that, but yet when it comes down to it, we're still KAJUKENBO family. You know, if something happened at a tournament, you know, and this KAJUKENBO people, you know, no one got along with, but something happened that we had to have his back, all the KAJUKENBO people will have that person's back, even if you don't get along with them. And they have to work together and stop nitpicking every little thing that somebody does. You know, because it's ridiculous, especially when you're, like I said, when you nitpick. If you're a somebody, go ahead and nitpick. But when you're not, or you weren't even born then, you have no right to disrespect any grandmaster. And the same thing, you should not disrespect no grandmasters out there. Even if you don't agree with them, you can talk to them, work it out, and it's done with. But don't sit there and just disrespect them and saying silly things to them. Because like I said, you know, this is KAJUKENBO is one big family. And, you know, it's just like Vargas gave this scenario. And I used the same scenario at my aunt's funeral because the whole family was fighting over the money and stuff. I said, if you take one pencil, you snap it. You take dozens of pencils, it won't snap because it's stronger with volume. So as I said, with the old KAA, I told Kelly Gaylord, we work together, we'll be stronger. So you can imagine if, you know, she was part of, you know, we were all part together, how strong the Gaylord method would be right now. Instead of, you know, being like cut in half. You know, I mean, I've already, you know, passed it the first year with what they did, but, you know, we need to work together, you know, and, you know, it's a shame that it doesn't have to be that way. You know, and especially like I said, you know, I was, you know, one of his top black belts, and everybody knows that, and they can never take that away. You know, you can talk crap, but, you know, in the long run, you know, and then again, I'm there for everybody. I try my best. I'm only one person. So the way it is.
Okay. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for my questions. Do you have any other thoughts or anything that you'd like to share, Senior Grandmaster?
Let me see. I just wanted to, you know, do a shout out to Sri Lanka. I made a little video yesterday. It's an orphanage, and it's not, you know, they're in an orphanage. I seen where they worked out. They worked out in a church that's got the floors are all messed up, where they're out in the dirt. The kids are really poor. I've asked everybody because they need karate books and martial arts books. And as I said, I know you even donated some money to help out. They don't have to send money. They just send, like, if you have old books or old any kind of martial arts stuff, so I can send to these children in Sri Lanka. The pastor, you know, I talked to him yesterday. I made a small video on my KAJUKENBO Live, but that's the kind of thing that a lot of other organizations don't do. They don't put their hand out. They want to take, not give. And you have to help people, you know. And like I said, I listed all the kids in the studio just to make their day, you know. So, you know, just reach out, you know, reach out and give sometimes, don't take. That's gonna be my motto for the end of this conversation.
Okay. All right. So I guess in closing here, I just got a final thought that I'd like to share
Sure.
from a professor that reached out to me during a recent public Facebook exchange that you know, I thought was kind of cool. He reached out to me and he said, you know, it's a shame that politics gets in the way and it happens in public. It matters little to me whether a person is under Gaylord, Hemenes, Gagne, etc. Whether you're KSDI, IKA, KAA, or any other association, we should all be under CJO, but even that is being questioned by some. And that speaks volumes to me, and I believe that should ring true throughout the entire KAJUKENBO Ohana. Bickering amongst ourselves only serves to weaken KAJUKENBO and is not only embarrassing, but it contributes to either our success or our lack thereof. As CJO once stated, we should be helping each other instead of tearing each other down. I thank you all for watching, and I wish you all the best. I hope that we can all move forward with a renewed sense of Ohana, and that we can all work together to make KAJUKENBO stronger, regardless of individual lineage. Again, we're all KAJUKENBO.
Yeah.
Mahalo.
All right. Thank you for having me on, Sifu Dave.
Yeah, I appreciate you spending the time with us, Senior Grandmaster, and providing some answers to some of these questions.
Okay.